Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is episode number 129 for July 14th, 2026. Kevin, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you. A little bit hot, but no change there.
Yeah, for sure. Brutal. All right. Well, how are you going to change my mind this time?
Well, we've been touching upon for the last couple of episodes, series, really how the placement of entertainment facilities within the mix works. And now we're seeing a number of malls and retail gulches, including a dedicated entertainment anchor component to them. And this is quite a large opportunity for us, especially as the retail industry goes through a major change in how it fits into the market. Is it being used mainly as a kind of showroom for people that are going to be purchasing online? Is there a possibility of maybe incorporating a strong entertainment mix to increase the dwell time? Or is there something a little bit more taking place here where entertainment can stand as its own outage? For those of you that aren't familiar, many malls used to have something called entertainment anchors, and they used to treat those as either cinemas or as fun food entertainment restaurant chains. Now that entertainment anchor is being seen as a competitive socializing mix or as a mule, as a mixed use leisure entertainment component. And that is something that we need to think about, because we need to change the design and the layout and the operation the same way that Dave & Buster's has to go through that change when they attach one of their Dave & Buster's facilities to a mall, an existing mall component.
Well, yeah, and I think thinking about your mix, thinking about your guest flow, what is your food and beverage mix as well? Like, what are different restaurants that are in the retailtainment districts? Are you competing with them on certain types of foods, like the style of food? Is there an Italian restaurant? Is there a Chinese restaurant? Is there an American restaurant? What food? How are you differentiated? On an entertainment level, it's a little bit easier, assuming there's not an entertainment things there, but you are bringing the entertainment to this retail district. But I think also when I think of retailtainment, it's not just you providing entertainment to a particular existing retail, what would I call it, a retail mall or shopping center, but there are retailtainment locations. We talk about camp being one of those really strong, powerful, very well done retailtainment destinations where you come in to not only buy things, right? You come in for the experience, but then you end up leaving with particular IP and merchandise related to that IP. And so I think you're also competing with those types of retailtainment destinations that are inside of these malls. So how are you differentiated even from actual retailtainment locations themselves?
And we also have the mix now of certain of the larger brands. For example, the picture that we're using to illustrate this particular Plymouth shopping mall actually has a Legoland attraction within its operation. So again, trying to bring in a mid-scale resort entertainment component against your location-based entertainment could be quite a daunting change. Who are your customers? Who are you competing with? What is the differentiator from your offering compared to the other offerings? Those are the things that you need to be asking yourself. And it is a very bumpy ride. As we have touched upon, our friends at F1 Arcade, they created what I would call a retail-attainment version of their concept with F1 Box. And as we've seen, that really has stalled at the starting gate.
Yes, good pun there. Good pun. And we don't really know why it's necessarily stalled. They continue to roll out their F1 arcades, but the F1 box seems to be a perfect fit for one of these types of retail shopping district areas.
It needed more time in the oven from my personal opinion of what it was, but what it was trying to fit into the marketplace seemed a logical move by them. If a retail facility doesn't really want to have an F1 arcade, then this was an intermediate component. That also said, we have seen our friends at Gravity Max try and roll their mixed-use leisure entertainment facility into a mall-centric shopping venue component, and that has only seen 3 facilities open so far.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I wonder if this is something to think about. So the impulsivity of your particular attraction, is it, or your entertainment mix, is it something that I can go in and do? Maybe I was going to Dick's or I was going to Burlington, to use some of the examples that are here on the screen. And then I'm walking by and I see something. I'm like, oh, I'm going to pop in here for 30 minutes and see what's available. And I can go play some amusement or some redemption, or I can go do a ride simulator or play a quick round of mini golf. Like how if you're going into one of these destinations, is it about impulsivity, or is it about making sure that you are part of having to plan? If I have to go in and book a time, well, maybe I can go book a time, then go shopping, and then come back for my booked time. But am I going to stay in your facility while I'm waiting if I was there for other reasons? And I think those are some things to consider as well when you're in this type of retail entertainment district.
Impulse customer or walking traffic, as it's called more commonly in the amusement side of this sector, is more common in this kind of environment as a percentage of your audience compared to away from this kind of thing. So it's foot traffic against drop-in, but many of the location-based entertainment narratives that we've been talking about in recent sound-offs don't work well to just impulse purchase. You really have to make a decision that you're going to spend some time there. For example, an activate is not something that you're more common to do on an impulse. You're going to have to book a certain period of time. Your 60-minute slot is going to have to be booked, and you don't know what availability is like. Flexibility, booking, and the ability of maybe supporting drop-in traffic rather than just being rigidly focused on timed bookings are all factors that you need to consider if you're going to play in retail entertainment.
Absolutely. All right. Well, coming back after the break, we will dive right into the business trends. Intercard makes cashless easy with award-winning readers, self-serve kiosks, real-time reporting, and flexible guest payment options. From play cards and credit cards to mobile payments and QR codes. Since introducing the industry's first card system in 1989, Intercard has helped operators reduce cash handling, increase guest spending, and run smarter venues. Intercard is the world leader in cashless technology. If you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon. Visit intercardinc.com to learn more.
Well, thank you for that. And we jump straight into the biz. And surprise one for me here. Our friends at Sandbox have been steadily, moving along with their franchise business. We're in the high 80s now with them, rushing towards 90, and I'm sure 100 facilities opening before the end of the year, if the rumors are true on the street. And then out of nowhere, from my point of view, we hear that the company has, taken on a 10-year lease on a very expensive piece of property. An incredibly expensive piece of property located within stone's throw of Times Square. So that brings all of the issues of operation. It is quite a large space. It's about 10,000 square, multi-floored environment, and they're going to be dropping in their current version of their Sandbox VR operation. From my point of view, this is a flagship site. We saw our friends at the Void go for a flagship New York site, and that was one of those projects that really pushed them over the edge because of the expense, not just in the lease that they had to sign, but also in the price of staffing an operation. I don't think the facility that I'm remembering at the Oculus in New York didn't even last 12 months. And it was an indicator of the problems that were about to hit the Void. And now we're seeing Sandbox VR go for a very prominent space, a stone's throw away from a very important Dave and Buster's location, a stone's throw away from some other tourist-related entertainment facilities. I expect this to be open by next year, middle of next year, and we'll be watching with great interest if they will be able to just open this without any F&B, or whether they're going to have to bite the bullet.
Well, I mean, hopefully they at least add in some beverage options and some cocktails, like whatever. This one seems to be jumping the shark for them. I don't know if this is corporate owned or if this is a franchise location. If it is a franchise location, I hope that they really did their homework. $750,000 annual rent is extraordinary for a Sandbox. I don't know how you actually make money with it. I don't know how they modeled it out. So if it is a corporate location and they're really just trying to get brand recognition in Times Square and it's supposed to be flagship and it's going to be a loss leader for them, okay, fine. Talk it up as a marketing expense, whatever, for your brand and for your IP and your attractions. And then, they maybe play Sandbox VR in Times Square, and then they go back home into Chicago or wherever their home is, and they play Sandbox there again because they loved it so much while they were visiting Times Square. But we were just talking about impulsivity. The problem with this is you go down to Times Square as a tourist and you're wandering around, and you're either going there for Broadway, if you're, or shopping or something, or just to go take it all in, and you're going to just walk into a Sandbox. No, probably not. You're going to have to book it ahead of time in advance and plan it with your friends, and feel like Times Square is not the place I want to have to go and contend with from a traffic and people standpoint to go and just do some entertainment with my friends. I feel like they would have been better served to have a flagship location slightly off Times Square and really focus on marketing maybe in Times Square to drive people down a little bit off Broadway, so to speak.
This could be part of one of their investors making available to them a sweetheart deal on a property. Of course, we have to take that on board. This could be part of a brand new marketing approach where they're going to use this venue as a kind of a sugar pill, promote the brand through this. They will make sure that during the the New Year celebrations and festivities, that they're front and center. I would just say a billboard would have been cheaper.
Yeah.
Moving on, and some news that we kind of knew about during the IALPA Asia, but it's been cemented with a press release, and I thought it deserved to be officially stated here in Sound Off. We've dealt with Alterface on numerous occasions. They are one of those companies that has worked very hard on the development of interactive dark ride attractions. They have rolled out a number of dark rides that have a shooting digital element, gamification element to this. They have been striving to move to the next level of engagement regarding interactive attractions for the international market. And they've kind of signed a very high-level strategic partnership with Phantom Wild, an Asian developer and operator in that territory. And they have signed this strategic partnership towards developing next-generation interactive attractions. What those will look like, I think we may get a better idea in November at IALPA, but this kind of is what I think we'll be beginning to see, which is the media attractions industry consolidating, as I've said many times before, but also consolidating towards their future business positionings in the phygital market.
Yeah, and this sometimes is how a future acquisition or merger happens. They form a strategic partnership. They do a little dance together. It's a bit of a courtship, see how well their different sets of expertise collaborate and work. Phantom Wild obviously having a little bit more of the culture, the cultural attractions component alongside technology, integrating culture with technology. Alterface being a pretty hardcore interactive attraction provider and creator and developer. And so, yeah, these two could do some really interesting things together. And I wouldn't be surprised if we hear a year or two from now that these two are merging officially?
Yes, this could be a consumption more than just a strategic partnership, but also I think this is allowing Phantom Wild access to some attractions that they're in desperate need to keep themselves fresh with their market operations. But it is a marriage of convenience so far. Let's see how much of this results in offspring. Moving on, and the makers and shakers of the sector continue in the C-suite department. We kind of knew that Joe was going to be parachuted into the position of Walt Disney Resorts president. He has, a long history with the Walt Disney Corporation, from everything from Shanghai to Euro Disney. An incredible resume for a Disney director, and I would actually point to that kind of resume, meaning that he's on a trajectory for C-suite top level. But at this point in time, the Disney World Resort needs some TLC after a period of change, and I can't think of a better man to be parachuted in to bring that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no better resume than you could imagine to have coming into taking over the Walt Disney World Resort. So wish him much luck, and yeah, again, would agree. Wouldn't be surprised to see him over much of the Disney parks, if not all of the Disney parks, at some point at the C-suite level.
Yes, it one to watch. The kind of things that he's going to have to be focused on is he's going to have to be making those changes now that a lot of the previous management's opinions about how attractions should be operated, the changes that we're seeing with the Star Wars areas of the park, as well as the dropping in of especially the new villains concept, which still hasn't been solidified 100% to the market. These are all the things that will be under his tenure, and he's going to be busy, but from his time at Shanghai and Euro Disney, he's used to that. Moving on, and Six Flags has parachuted in a new chief of operations. Kind of expected that there was going to be one going to be taking place. Mark brings a lot to the table. He's been involved with the Palace Entertainment growing pains. And I think what we'll be seeing in the next couple of months regarding Six Flags Entertainment is the nailing down of a strategy of how they want to move forward and how they want to profit from their position in the market, especially as some of the IP that was previously available to them has been taken off of the table. So there's a lot of things to consider here, as well as the ticket pain that they've been going through recently.
Well, and I think he brings a really interesting pedigree as well, given the fact that he was involved, or whether he was in charge of, or at least involved in integrating Palace Entertainment into the Herschend family entertainment mix. And so he's now coming from Herschend, which has historically a great culture, great people culture as well. They really run well, very well run parks. And maybe he's coming in to help really try to figure out how to merge the Cedar Fair and Six Flags cultures together and create a unified culture. I wouldn't be surprised if that's still something that they are struggling with, certain identity issues around the different parks that are out there. And hopefully he'll help to bring some clarity and some direction to that.
It's clear that his predecessor found that difficult, though his predecessor will now be moving on to an advisory position, while Mark now has to get his feet under the table and really deal with this situation. So maybe he is the right man for the job here, though I would also argue that the overall Six Flags entertainment offering is going to need some real C-suite advisory. Moving on, and Busch Gardens has parachuted in a new president to their operation. And an individual that comes again with a lot of theme park experience, wild adventure theme parks, as well as a senior position with Lake Compost theme park. What really is needed with Busch Gardens generally, not just the Tampa Florida operation, but the Busch Gardens brand is going to be fascinating under the current conditions, because we've just named 2 operations that are going to be changing their positioning and restructuring themselves, repositioning themselves. And really, are you going to be a firefighter or a fire prevention officer regarding the brand? Because those are the guys you're going to be competing against. I'm prepared to even take a risk that we haven't even heard Dollywood talk about maybe dropping in a new president. Is that the next domino that we're going to see fall?
It might be. I think what is they did a good job. I think finding, I don't know John myself personally, but just given again his resume and his background, working at Wild Adventures theme park, animals, as well as entertainment. I mean, those are 2 things that require a lot of unique expertise, and there aren't too many animal/theme park or attraction / theme parks and adventure parks out there. And so the fact that he has that experience working at Wild Adventures theme park, and now he can come into a Busch Gardens is, I think a good find that he was able to come in with that type of mixed experience.
It is, the HR team did good finding an individual with those type of credentials. I can only think of about 4 other park kind of operations that have that kind of broad mix. And from Busch Gardens' perspective, they are also going through a transition in brand positioning. You'll notice that their brand has actually changed, moving slightly away from the animal component towards more of the entertainment component. How much of that will continue under the new president, we'll have to wait and see. Interesting, we've been talking about Parkes a number of times during previous sound-offs, and they have decided to take on a new group director of entertainment, reporting to the C-suite, very important perspective. Mark has an extensive background in the theme park and entertainment sector. Haven't had the pleasure of actually meeting him, but know of the work that he's done for some of the other park involvements. I just feel that really what you're going to be doing with this particular operation is going to be considerable. There is so many things to think about now that you've offloaded certain operations, now that you've repositioned your corporation from a European standpoint rather than a heavily international standpoint. There are going to be a lot of developments to consider, and the possibility of is this operation going to go back on the acquisition spree now with the changed market?
Yeah, I mean that's what I was wondering here is, okay, he's coming into a group that is going through a little bit of turmoil themselves, just with some divestments as well as some changes in their focus, and so it would be interesting to see what he has to focus on as the head of entertainment going forward.
Having to still report to the C-suite kind of is a statement that's put into a press release to say that a safe pair of hands is going to be steering some of the decisions. It's a euphemism used in media journalism for press releases. There's also something under the surface here, which is certain sources have made it clear that that they still have aspirations to divest themselves of certain operations. If that's true, we'll know about that by November. And if that's true, that's even more work to have to consider. Moving on, and from the theme parks to the amusement, and LAI Games has taken on David as business development and sales executive. He, from the description in the press announcement and how it was sort of laid out in front of us, he's going to be doing hearts and minds as much as he's going to be strategically positioning what LAI Games is going to be doing next. Remember, LAI Games is really controlled from its Australian head office. And they depend upon their North American executive team to help with that steering of development and understanding what the customers need. That David comes from a previous background with Andretti's tells us that he understands a little bit the pain and anguish that operators are going through and the sticker shock that many are going through. I would also argue that one of his key jobs is going to be looking at what their next generation of releases are, and are they suitable for the market. We have to admit, I know it's painful for LAI, but their previous management that were directing them on certain releases may have missed the target considerably, and their Singapore team has paid the price for those target overshoots. And now the games that they're going to be thinking of releasing in the next 12 to 24 months are important to redressing their fortunes. How much of that is going to depend on Chinese licensed products is going to be interesting. I didn't see David at the AAA show, but I saw everybody else from LAI Games walking around there looking at the latest releases. So again, from a manufacturer that also has links to a operator. Remember, LAI Games is all part of the group that includes our friends at Time Zone. They are going to have to position their products for a very important 2027, 2028 market.
This is an interesting one, and a role that we've seen pop up here and there for different brands. Clint Novak, who's been a guest gab, done a number of guest gabs with us, and has a regular, often has a regular session segment on the LBX show. And he was basically a brand ambassador for ANA Global, and he traveled around from location to location and met with customers and promoted the ANA Global element. So he's doing, sounds like a very similar thing. I think what's interesting here though is that this is almost in some way circumventing the distributors. So this is, hey, we're not getting enough love or attention or visibility potentially to the operators through our distributor relationships. So we're going to send David around to all of our different existing customers, and he's going to go and promote the different and see what's on the floor, see what's working, promote, hey, maybe over here you could put this game, or this game might work really well over here. And again, not necessarily trying to take direct to business away from the distributors, but in some ways doing what the distributors should be doing, which is recommending particular things. But this is LAI being able to come in and do this. And I do wonder if we will see this with other manufacturers of games following a similar trend, sending their ambassadors around to different locations, trying to promote their specific games.
It's a kind of a dirty secret in the US amusement scene that there are brand ambassadors that don't have that written on their business cards, but they indirectly or directly act as sales agents and sales representatives. This is a front and center business development position, and you're quite right. I expect to see many other manufacturers doing that. I also expect by IALPA in November that we will have a clear line in the sand regarding what is happening with the distribution scene in North America. There's a strong possibility that by the time we get to November, we will be minus at least one of the distributors, and then that will put the cat amongst the pigeons, as it were. Watch this space. It is something that we're going to have to reflect upon in 2027 about where the manufacturer fits into the mix with the operational scene, and where the distributor brings that value added that warrants that 20% markup. Moving on, and we called it, we didn't need a large crystal ball to say that, though. In an interview for the Dallas Business Journal, David at Topgolf confirmed that they were reinforcing their position in the market. They were trying to deal with trying to offer a better guest experience, and that they were now looking at lower prices bundles, working with youth leagues, working with tournaments, and as we called it, now we're testing the inclusion of entertainment alongside their shooting operations across all of their venues. And that included evaluation of pickleball, inclusion of darts, and the inclusion of amusement. We called it that this was going to be something that they were going to have to face. And I think David has laid the the groundwork for us to be able to stand in a Top Golf facility and see multiple entertainment offerings rather than just the shooting bays.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate the fact that they're going to be testing other entertainment, including pickleball. I mean, pickleball is just an ironic one given Top Golf and the amount of square footage and land use that they have and their per square foot, their per square foot revenue is probably one of the lowest in the world, just given the size of the facility. So why not add pickleball that has a traditionally low per revenue revenue per square foot? But no, anyway, I mean, I'm glad to see they're trying other things. Ideally, they try other things like this, like things that go into bays. You have all of these bays. Why not convert some of your bays into darts? Dart bays and other sim bays and soccer bays and other things like that. You've already have that built with seating and everything else. There's why not try to experiment with adding in some of those? Drop a screen or something like that down in front, and then you've already got all the rest of the infrastructure there. So anyway, I'm sure David is thinking through all of those things and the rest of his team, but it is great to see that they're finally going to begin to experiment with other attractions and mixing them in with their existing platform.
You would have been thrown out of the top floor of the C-suite offices if you had suggested this 24 months ago.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just saying how things change, but there is a very important lesson to be learned here. If you have access to the operational data, you should be able to look on a spreadsheet or an automated piece of software and see which of your bays are utilized the most. You then do a simple calculation of saying, if we remove those bays that aren't being used as much as the other ones and turn those into entertainment bays, what is the increase in payment? That is a simple entertainment perception concept that could be easily activated. I just hope that David is being advised by individuals that come from an entertainment background rather than individuals that are desperately looking for a paddle for their canoe. Moving on, and we have news from our friends at Five Iron Golf. They've been investing quite heavily into their international operation, and they have now revealed that 20 million has been injected into their UK operation to start rolling out a considerable number of UK-based Five Iron facilities. I didn't include the word golf there because doing some research, I came across some branding, and there's a strong possibility that golf denominator may be softened slightly in this rollout, because a number of these entertainment facilities that will be going into the UK, the first one's opening in 2027 in London, will be mixed use leisure entertainment facilities. They just won't be pushing the shooting simulator bay concept, but they will also be including the duck pin bowling and the amusement and some competitive socializing elements. Anyway, we have to wait and see until the first ones of these sites open in the UK. If you have 20 million, you're going to be opening more than 5 in the UK, at least. That's a safe bet, unless you've got some real expensive transatlantic flights planned. The one thing that I always love to point out, so we're just talking about our friends at Top Golf, always remember that Five Irons Golf is partly backed by Callaway Golf, who just divested themselves of their involvement with Top Golf.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, so they certainly need to be branding. I mean, I like their tagline: "We make golf for everyone," and other things. They do. They've really begun to do what they should be doing. But this is one of the difficulties we talked about on this show and on Open and Shut on the LBX show. When you establish a brand name, if you too narrowly niche your entertainment within your name, then that really can become a future problem for you that you have to unwind. And so if they had just been Five Iron and then have a tagline that had said, "We make golf for everyone," well, it's a lot easier to change your tagline. You could be Five Iron with then change it to other things, golf, sports, food, right? Or whatever you want to do, and change your tagline down the line. So anyway, they are going to, I think, have to eventually address that issue with their logo and with their brand. But in the meantime, we'll see how many of the locations they actually get open with that 20 million pounds. Don't think it will be 10.
It won't be 10, and it will be very dependent on how well the first London facility opens. Wherever they're opening in London, it's going to be expensive. Finding a good 6,000 square space within a catchment for a flagship entry of a brand such as Five Irons is going to be interesting. I would also point to the argument that this could be a brand changer where the first facility in London will also be used to maybe go back and look at the existing brands in their international offering in North America and other countries. Whatever the case, the whistle has been blown here, and we will wait to see what 2027 brings to us from this particular franchise. A real weird one here, pushed under my door. It was pointed out to me that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling was going to take place, and they did. Last month, they made it clear that it is illegal unlawful to run certain of the skill game machines on their naughty list. And their naughty list included redemption machines. It was really confusing. It was badly worded. I've tried to read numerous times the state ruling on this. And, even the legislators have made it clear that this is something they're going to have to go back and deal with. A local distributor and manufacturer in the catchment of this has turned around and said, you do know that there are Chuck E. Cheese's operating machines that would fall foul of your new legislation. This legislation was put in place to try and deal with adult gaming and gaming machines, and someone wrote it with a very thick pen and didn't quite understand the nuances of the differences in skill game applications. Whatever the situation, a lot of operators and a lot of manufacturers are waiting with bated breath to see what the final decision is going to be, and whether the Chuck E. Cheese defense, as it is being called, will allow amusement machines to slip under the radar of this. The idea of court officials kicking in the door of a Chuck E. Cheese facility and hauling out redemption machines as illegal skill game platforms, I don't think we're going to see that happening, but this is a perfect example of where the trade associations behind the scenes are going to be, like the swan, very serene on the top, but those feet are going to be moving very quickly under the water.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see this, because this is the big giant fear of many, many arcades that deploy redemption games. And we've talked about the fine line between skill and non-skill redemption games as well. But, when you even have skill games, things like skee ball actually being listed potentially as one of these elements, then that really begins to say, well, look, if skee ball is considered unlawful, what are we doing about big bass wheel?
A smart attorney could force every redemption machine manufacturer to prove that they don't fall foul of this. This would then start to dominoes, because there are other legislative practices looking at this kind. This is not just a test case, as it were. This is a statewide process, and we could see where, if one particular Supreme Court goes one way, then others will follow to also enact something that some parents groups have been complaining about in the background, where the kiddie casino syndrome. We've talked about this on numerous occasions on Sound Off as a red light that we should be aware of in the amusement industry and be protecting ourselves from. Sadly, the gatekeepers in the amusement trade feel that this isn't important, and the situation will sort itself out. I do know that the trade associations in private are working very hard to speak to the Hill, and also to speak to local courts regarding the positioning of their industry. But at the same time, if you allow adult gaming machines on your trade show floor, and also if you sleep with dogs, you catch fleas, is really what I'm trying to elucidate. My biggest problem here is this takes a lot of cycles to deal with. It's very expensive. And I don't think some manufacturers are going to be in a position to protect themselves against what this legislation could bring if it falls out of favor. And I'm wondering how shocked and surprised some in our industry are going to be if this falls the way I think it could fall regarding the positioning of some amusement skill games. It's going to be like that scene in Casablanca, showing my age. I'm shocked that gambling is going on in this institute. We are at a point now where we'll need to prove to not just our audience, but to legislator that we are a clean skill game market in amusement, or else we're going to be hoisted on a very big petard.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, the Taurus of Pain, for all of you that are keeping track, a weird bloom, but you get the idea. We had a lot of theme parks included this session. But anyway.
All right. Well, coming up after this quick break, we will dive into the tech trends.
Every birthday you miss is a party booked somewhere else. If you run a trampoline park, family entertainment center, play cafe, or party venue, Party Ping connects to your booking system and automatically sends a text to parents with a personalized birthday message, along with a custom gift for the kid, at just the right time when they're deciding where to celebrate. Venues using Party Ping see 20% more party bookings. More parties, zero extra work. Check them out at partyping.ai. That's partyping.ai.
Thank you for that. And jumping into the tech and IP trends, and IP big. So you have Universal Horror Unleashed, bring your own dog. And the issue is, for me, that a couple of sound-offs ago, we were talking about the addition of new attractions to this, and that they were showing us that they were going to be keeping it fresh and up to date. And now the news drops that they're going to be creating a Resident Evil takeover pop-up experience. Now, that's Resident Evil based upon the popular Capcom video and amusement game series. This is big IP, married with other big IP, lots of themality, lots of opportunity, and I am sure it is the beginning of specially themed horror pop-up elements going into the theatre stage that is the Unleashed out-of-home entertainment venue. I'm not sure if our industry really woke up to how big a deal this kind of thing is. Capcom wouldn't make available their Resident Evil IP, which has also had a film franchise release, willy-nilly. This isn't just, let's have a couple of characters dressed up as Ken or some of the others from the franchise. This is a big move, and with soon-to-be open Chicago Universal Horror Unleashed venue going, this is their, shall we say, their Netflix house moment.
Indeed. Interesting. Well, I mean, look, this is what we hoped would happen when they first announced that they were doing this physical space with 4 different horror experiences or scare experiences. And the fact that we were hoping that they would be rotating new things in, new concepts, have pop-ups, have unique themed events. And so it is good to see that they are doing that, actually. And I do wonder, are they taking over the entire facility, or are they taking over one of their particular haunt experiences and making that a Resident Evil takeover? So that, I think, is probably to be explained. It makes it sound almost like they're taking over the entire facility.
It does.
But that'd be interesting. And then what is the length of runtime that it will exist in this particular location, because that will reduce their repeat visitation if they are taking over the entire facility, because now no longer can I go do 4 haunts. I can only go do 1 haunt for a period of time. And so, yeah, we'll see what their strategy is there. But at least I'm glad to see that they are bringing in new concepts, but also bringing in really significant IP.
Transform the venue. Direct quote from the press release.
Right.
They're going to have special food. They're going to have special cocktails. They will be doing exterior-y theming. They will be doing major interior-y theming. They're going to be adding interactive games and will have live actor components. This is major. How many of our industry observers have spotted how major this is? I think they'll be surprised when they go to Area 15 in 4 months' time, because I'm getting the feeling that this is going to be ready for their Halloween operation.
Indeed.
Moving on, and we touched upon this in Open and Shut, but our friends at Gender moment, but Geigo has now parachuted into the retail attainment side of the business. See the pivot from how we started, or not pivot, see the link from how we started the beginning of this. Retail attainment, well, you can't get more retail attainment than putting in a bloody amusement entertainment operation inside a luxury goods store. And so the venue in Tokyo has dedicated a floor of their facility, about 206 square meters worth, to M2F, which is a group of amusement machines that have been customized to suit the design, the layout, and the styling of this luxury goods store. So really is, we got a luxury goods footwear company opening up a brand new luxury store in Tokyo and putting in it a entertainment facility. You don't get much more retail attainment than this. And is this something done because it's stylish, it's Tokyo, and they did a really good deal with Gender? Or is this something where they feel that retail attainment directly links to their customers' dwell time and buying habits, and it's a good piece of operational interest? Does this increase the spend? These are all the questions. Is this just done as a flagship frippery, or is this something serious across the 100 plus stores that this particular brand operates in Japan alone?
I think it'd be interesting to understand whether the tail wagged the dog or the dog wagged the tail in this particular case, or was it, one of those where an executive from Geigo and an executive from Onitsuka were grabbing dinner and said, hey, what would be cool is if we did this, and they just hashed it out there over dinner and figured out a way to put something interesting and try an experiment here. Because is this something that Geigo came to them and said, hey, we really think we could do something amazing here for you on this floor? Or did Onitsuka, Tiger, come to Geigo and say, we would really like to add amusement component? And it just seems, I'm curious which direction it went, because I think that will be very indicative of whether or not we see this roll out to the existing other locations more quickly, or whether they really wait to see how well it does.
We have seen from the footage of the facility that there are amusement cabinets that are used as unique display booths. There is a full arcade cabinet with the screen removed and a pair of shoes placed inside it as a unique display case. Onitsuka's marketing and development and design team has been directly involved with this process. It is clear how much of this is a PR spin to utilize some space within the facility, or if this is going to be replicated across other of their facilities, time will tell.
Indeed.
Our friends at Pixel Games have had a lot to shout about recently. They have now installed 100 of their IIF, as I like to call them, interactive, illuminated floor game systems across the international market. And, to round that off, they made the announcement that they've done a deal with our friends at Gamescape, who we were talking about in a recent Open and Shut, and that they have created a special version of their IIF platform. It's a nice enclosure. It's a twin floor system with a launch kiosk. For me, looking at what they've done with this particular installation reminds me a lot of what Fog has done with their Game Grid kind of installation. I think this is a better way to go with illuminated floors rather than the open plan, but it does show that they're prepared to do customized versions of this system. And then while we're celebrating 100 systems in the market, we also get the news that Pixel Games has signed a relationship with our friends at Gravity, and that they're going to be installing 10 of their IIF floor systems across their chain of facilities. They already have in Gravity Max, at least 2 Gravity Maxes, their interactive floor systems, and now we will be seeing the Gravity Actives also benefiting from these floor systems. This is a part of the market that, an application, a platform, a genre that has proven very popular. And I expect to see Pixel Games focusing a lot more on customized relationships with large chains to establish the numbers that they need to hit to roll out their platform, as well as they're now in an active battle with our friends at LAI Games, who also have partnered with Fog to release their interactive floor system. It's nice to see this competition. We will hope to see other platforms entering the market offering the same kind of level of entertainment engagement. And I expect at least 2 other systems to throw their hats into the ring around ILPA Orlando time.
Yeah, indeed. Well, look, I'm just happy to see that Pixel Games has been expanding and doing as well. I really like the new installation that is going into Gamescape. It feels much more unattended, sort of automated, dedicated, and less of just an afterthought thrown into a corner of a facility. So I do like this direction they're going. And, it's interesting to see the pivot that Laser Force has done over the last few years to really focus heavily on Pixel Games. And not to say that they have not focused on their laser tag experiences, but they've really moved heavily to focus a lot on the Pixel game component as well.
I would point our audience to the coverage we did in the Stinger Report last year from IALPA of all the things that Pixel Games was proposing to do, their shooting gallery system, their weird angled enclosure system. None of that has appeared. All of the focus has been on the interactive floors. You usually see this kind of focus when you know that they're making their core business out of this. Pixel Games USA is very focused on their illuminated floor, how they move forward with that, customized systems, especially as they're going to be dealing with competition that is not just going to be doing illuminated panel floor systems, but are going to be using the latest technology to stay relevant, as we've talked about from our friends at Moment Factory.
Yep.
Moving forward, and Holoviz, we were talking recently about their involvement with Netflix House, and now we're seeing a little bit more exposure to some of the other projects they're working on. And recently they installed a temporary pop-up F1 racing experience in the center of London. This is part of the Williams F1 team's promotion of the build-up for the UK Grand Prix and all of the F1 Grand Prix activity. And they've dropped in 10 simulators within a space, linked them to the digital screens of the Piccadilly Lights facility. This is the same place that we held the launch for some of the entertainment experience venues recently. It is a lovely projection environment. It is a phygital space. People playing on the simulators were reflected in the projections that were being put on the big screens, floor as well as walls. It is still operational, a very interactive entertainment environment. And I hope that someone from F1 Arcade pops in to have a look at how you can really do this.
Uh, I'll leave it at that. I'm sorry. I'm just a little. I'm a little skeptical of this experience. I mean, I appreciate its location and Piccadilly Lights, and it's going to get a lot of attention. But this was probably a very expensive attraction because it's custom to the single pop-up installation, and so this hopefully it doesn't need to generate an ROI, I guess is my point.
Isn't the first time that they've done this here. They use it as a marketing tool. Obviously, the Williams marketing team doesn't have donuts on one Friday of 1 month, and they can afford to drop one of these attractions in. But it is an example of the level of interactive entertainment that pop-up marketing attractions have to offer, near enough building an F1 arcade, minus the food and drink. Moving on, and we kind of pivot into the technology that is impacting all of our lives, but also causing lots of concern. We've touched upon the smart glass situation, and that situation has got a little worse rather than a little better. We are at that Google Glass moment where there's been a lot of fallout from Meta being caught having to start charge subscriptions for certain services on these glasses. So these cheap glasses that were going to be able to do everything for you suddenly comes with a $19 a month subscription for you to use some of the features. There's been a bit of a backlash to that. One can say there's also been a little bit of a backlash to finding out that Meta has had problems regarding the private and security elements of this. We were talking last about certain pieces of information, software and pictures being looked at by a contractor that many people were unhappy about. And then we wake up to the news that Meta were forced to do a mandatory software update to address a problem that a journalist had found, where there seems to be a dark web of groups of modders drilling out the little light that tells individuals that the glasses are recording or capturing pictures, and that now they've had to put a piece of software in that says that your camera will stop working if this light has been disabled or covered up. This is not looking good. Underneath the surface as well, we are now finding out that certain legal operations, certain entertainment facilities, certain courtrooms and legal offices are now banning wearers of these glasses, or banning the wearing of these glasses on property for various issues regarding confidentiality and also concerns of privacy. When you start having to do this, it's not as seamless as treating these as a smartphone. It's getting very close to a tipping point that we saw, over 10 years ago with what happened with Google Glass. There, it was the glass hole moment. Now it's the Zuckerberg moment, where I think even how cheaply subsidized these glasses are, if there is a public backlash against the feeling of privacy from them, then we could see the slopware scenario befalling this. And this could be quite considerable.
Yeah, this whole thing is just, do we need these? Do we need these in the market? I mean, I don't know, right? I mean, it looks like people are obviously wanting to use them.
Some people
but they're wanting to use them nefariously, potentially, or at least trying to circumvent some of the protections that Meta has tried to put in place to even allow them on the market in the first place. But then I think the real just kick in the balls, so to speak, for the consumers who have purchased these is then adding on that $20 a month subscription to what is presumably their killer app. And so you need, we talked about what is the killer app for these glasses, what is the killer app for these on the consumer standpoint, on a location-based entertainment standpoint, and they found one, and now they decided to charge for it. And instead of just saying, hey, this is going to be the killer app that drives the sale of these glasses, which then tells me that Obviously, they are taking the glasses as a loss leader, looking to have that subscription fee really be their revenue model going forward. It's the consoles and the video game market. It's the printers and the printer cartridge market. It is the same thing. You're going to sell the glasses for a loss or at cost, and then try to suck money out of the buyers through a subscription base.
And these whales, these buyers, sometimes rebel against that type of thing. Let me spin this in an opposite direction. We have seen the audience rebel to being treated as mugs. We're going to squeeze money out of you for the killer app with a subscription. We're going to take away your ability to have ownership of the contents that you buy. Sony are having their Cracker Barrel moment here. They've got a lot of angry people out there that just do not like the announcement that Sony made that they're going to be, in 2 years' time, taking away physical media needs from their consoles. So the machine that you will be purchasing, if you are purchasing in the future, will be a constantly online, connected, cloud-based gaming machine. And you'll have to trust Sony that they're going to keep giving you access to the games that you paid. And how this kind of impacts us in the out-of-home entertainment market is that most players know that they're coming in to play a game that they are not buying, they're buying time on to enjoy. They are pay to play, as it were. When you start to see the consumer games industry try and pivot towards our kind of model, we are going to have a conflict of interesting proportions in 5 years' time. But dealing with the audience now, they're not happy. They have been lambasting Sony, tons of memes, tons of hate. And we've got that McDonald's moment. We've even got other brands taking the mick. And, when Domino's says that they're now not going to be selling physical pizzas, they're only going to be selling digital pizzas. Hey, the guys, you've made a mistake. Now, will Sony have the kahunas to say, we were wrong, we've listened to the audience, and we're going to roll this back, and we will be continuing physical media? Isn't a get out of jail card. This isn't like Cracker Barrel changing back to their original IP and hoping that everybody stops shouting at them. This could mean that a lot of companies turn around and go, we know what Sony really wants to do, and this is just a Band-Aid on a broken leg. We know that in 24 months or more, they will be removing physical media, and we don't want anything to do with this. One of the black eyes that Sony suffered with this announcement, they didn't tell any of their game developers that they were going to be making this announcement to remove physical media in 24 months' time. And this really did hurt the relationship when game developers are really feeling not loved under the current conditions in the consumer game sector. And remember, only a matter of months ago, I was reporting in Sound Off that the Sony CEO had jumped up on stage and said that the interactive entertainment sector of their business represented 60% of their total revenue. Well, someone's just urinated that up against a wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the major issues with this type of change is something that Nintendo had to learn over and over again until they finally grasp it, which is reverse compatibility. So if I buy the new console that doesn't have a CD slot, then all of the games I've already purchased will not work. I just might as well throw them in the trash, or now I have to maintain my PS5 in order to be able to continue to play those games while also try to move on to the new console. And so this is something that is, while they are making the announcement now, wouldn't be surprised if they are already fully underway in R&D development for their new console that will not have a physical media slot. And I think that will be a significant issue. And I do appreciate, though, the humor that other brands have had. Domino's, for example, like you put there, the example for those who are listening and maybe can't read it, Domino's has made the official statement that they're moving away from physical pizzas, and they will now be only providing downloadable digital pizzas that you can use your imagination to enjoy. So anyway, great humor, and love when brands like that really dive into the fray and have fun.
Yeah, it's always nice to watch them do that. The McDonald's moment we were talking about earlier in the year, I'm sure we'll see it a lot more. A corporation that has a console and makes a statement that throws the gaming community that they've been building all this time up in uproar reminds me of Xbox. And Xbox has recently been making their announcements. Their new CEO of the Xbox division, she has started the process of cutting back on the staff. We've seen 4,000 plus individuals losing their jobs, mainly from the Xbox division and studios. And we now found out that the grand total is expected to be about 9,000 by the end of the year. We are also now seeing the company admitting that they're pivoting away from physical consoles towards a cloud-based game economy. All of these guys are doing it. They all want to have games, games as a service. They just want that recurring revenue. And if Sony's going to do it and Microsoft's going to do it, then I am sure Nintendo is going to do it. They will do lip service. They will make available a peripheral. They may release a tentative number of physical copies, but this is the future that we are now looking at in the consumer sector. We in the location-based entertainment industry need to position ourselves against this. We need to make sure that we are squeaky clean and seen as having a closer relationship with our audience rather than looking at them as cash cows.
Indeed. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out across all the different console makers going forward.
This is the Anna Horribilis for the consumer video games industry. They're going to be spending a lot of money trying to renegotiate their relationship with their audience. We need to be prepared to do the same in our sector, especially when we've created some black eye moments of our own. It's a come to Jesus moment for generations of interactive players. And we're in a very interesting position because of the relationship that we have with our players on two levels, not just the nostalgia, but also the new generation of players coming to our facilities. Anyway, just to wind up, we have in a matter of weeks' time, we'll be heading into August, oh dear, and in August we have Amusement 360 in Indianapolis. I will be presenting there on social entertainment and looking at how to create the right mix for competitive socializing and social entertainment in existing and new facilities. If you've never attended Amusement 360 and you're an operator or a developer or even an investor in the location-based entertainment market, then you're missing out on a valuable opportunity, a boot camp to gain knowledge of the opportunities in the markets, the trends, and how to embrace those. It is also a valuable opportunity to do some site visits to facilities, and to get a look under the hood regarding how our industry works from an operator, FEC, laser tag, bowling, amusement, and competitive socializing perspective. Anyway, there is a lovely big QR code there for anyone that wants to add their name to the roster of attendees. Another QR code there for all of you that want to hit us up on LinkedIn or to use the email to pass on information. And I thank those that have passed on some info that I am currently researching at the moment that will have a big part to play in our next sound off. And we are lucky enough to have some more Stinger reports out there for you to read. Please keep up to date with that. Please make sure that if you've subscribed that they are turning up in your inbox. Anyway, that's it from me.
All right. Well, thank you, Kevin, for a great sound off, and we will see you on the next one.
Have a good one.